Hello everyone and welcome back to another match predictions video, my second for the World Cup thus far. This time we're at the round of 32. Can you believe it, guys? 72 games into the tournament. Still, how many? There's 106, so how's the math? 34 to go if the math is mathing. But yeah, it still feels like there's so much football to play. We're yet to really separate the kind of wannabes from the outright contenders. So I'm very much looking forward to this particular match day because there's some big teams coming up against one another. I will say I'm also backing myself with my predictions in advance, guys, because I tipped 28 out of the 32. The only four, what was it? I missed four. Give me one sec here. I missed four teams, so I got wrong Turkey, the Korea Republic, Uruguay, and Scotland. They let me down, those four teams, especially Korea Republic, man. First match day, I was feeling vindicated, and you just cooked it in the remaining two games. I also missed out on Bosnia, Ghana, DR Congo, and Paraguay. So apologies in advance to those teams, but nonetheless, we move into the round of 32. And look, elephant in the room, I do want to apologize in advance, guys. I missed out. This video is going out after Canada and South Africa has already taken place. Now, in my defense, I absolutely planned on making this video 24 hours prior, but off the back of 4 straight days of daily coverage, covering 6 games a day, I was completely cooked. I just did not have it in me to give a match predictions after that. I needed to take the time off to set myself for the next couple of weeks of intense football coverage. So do apologize for that, but hey, I was going to pick Canada anyways, so don't worry about it. Anyways, we move on to the first one, and what a matchup this is. The Netherlands taking on Morocco. Wow, this is two teams that you could put in the category of dark horses. Certainly Morocco, Netherlands, would you put them in like the category of genuine contenders? Although Morocco outperformed them in 2022. Speaking of, this team from 2022 to 2026, it's like a different beast nowadays. Now, the team of 2022 was built on this incredible collective discipline, absolute workhorses in the middle of the park, and just a sense of determination to become this historic African team that overachieved to the degree that no other team in Africa ever had. But in 2026, of what we've seen thus far, it's a different iteration of Morocco. It's a more technically gifted, it's a more entertaining version, a more mature version of that same side, which is ironic when you consider the most mature player in the squad, perhaps the most technically gifted, the most talented player in this squad is a 19-year-old. He's an 18 or 19-year-old, a teenager in Ayoub Ouboadi, who was on, he was on the books of France, and he inevitably committed to Morocco. And wow, what a revelation he has been in the heart of midfield alongside El Ainaoui. These two have been spectacular in the group stages. I was so impressed with their overall performances, particularly in that opening game against Brazil. They completely ran the show in the middle of the park. And in all 3 games, I've been pretty impressed with what I've seen from Morocco. I guess in that final game against Haiti, they somewhat switched off at times, but I'm not going to make a conclusive judgment off the back of that game. The other question I have with Morocco is in regards to some of their second half performances. I know against Haiti, they actually did a lot better than the first half, but against Brazil, they dominated in that first half, but somewhat switched off in the second. And same thing against Scotland. It was a bit more measured of a second half performance. That's not to say I don't think they're a very, very good team. I can see them making a deep run in this competition if they get the better of the Netherlands, but that is going to be no easy feat because similar to Morocco in many ways, the Netherlands have been very impressive thus far. They haven't really put a foot wrong. Okay, in that opening match against Japan, they were somewhat shaky at times. They switched off defensively. Same thing against Sweden. And again, v Tunisia. Set pieces wise, despite the size, they seem to be conceding quite a few goals. But outside of that, I have been relatively impressed with, I keep saying impressed. I came into this tournament and my biggest concern with the Netherlands was Ronald Koeman. I didn't trust in him as a manager. I'm still not fully convinced in Koeman as a manager. I think he is fundamentally limited, but I look at this Netherlands team, this Netherlands side, and defensively, they have top players. I think the goalkeeping situation could be a little better. I'm still not fully convinced with Verbruggen in goal at times, but defensively, on paper, a very strong team, susceptible to fast breaks on the counter. The I thought Sweden and Elanga caused all sorts of problems at times, but outside of set pieces and some transition moments, really impressed. I keep saying impressed. I've been relatively surprised. Brian Broby has been a great addition going forward. He seems to be the one to, many expected Memphis Depay to be the starter. He's the all-time leading goal scorer of the Netherlands, but Brian Broby has really excelled in this side. I think he's got, is it 3 or 4 goals? I'm not sure. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I know he's been banging them in all tournament. They've got good depth as well, the likes of Somerville, Marlin, Gakpo, good attacking players, and in the midfield, Frankie de Jong runs the show. I think he is one of the best midfielders in the entire World Cup, so can't speak highly enough about him. But yeah, man, this is going to be a really tough one. It kills me to say this, but I'm going to go with a Netherlands victory. The only reason is because whilst I think this Morocco team is very, very good, technically, I think overall there's more quality in this 2026 version than 2022. But I do think that the Netherlands are at the peak of their powers right now. I think this is going to be a very strong Netherlands side, and I anticipate they are going to make a decent run in this tournament as it unfolds. So I'm going to go with a 2-1 victory to the Netherlands. Are we doing... I figured I'll just give you the scoreline as well. Anyways, we move down to the next match on screen, and that's going to be Germany versus Paraguay. Now, I have very mixed feelings about this Germany team. I really don't know what to make of them at this point, because they started the tournament in ridiculous fashion, thumping Curaçao 7-1. Kai Havertz leading in the 9, bagging goals. Dennis Undav coming off the bench, bagging himself a brace. Musiala, Wirtz, free-flowing football. The fullbacks are causing all sorts. Yet, against Cote d'Ivoire, look, they weren't terrible. They actually did very well to come from behind against a very strong Cote d'Ivoire side. Yet in the third match day, they fielded an almost full-strength side and fell short to Ecuador, conceding 2, a side that was yet to score in the tournament prior. So there are legitimate question marks surrounding the actual credentials of this Germany team. I know Manuel Neuer's come under fire. The loss to Schlotterbeck in this heart of defense, that's a big problem. I think they're fortunate in that they're coming up against a limited Paraguay side. I watched Paraguay. I haven't been particularly impressed with them thus far. I think they were woeful against the US in the opener. They managed, they're an incredibly resilient side. What they did, holding on, going down, scoring early against Turkey, then just back against the wall, defensive masterclass, going down to 10 men inside 45 minutes and holding out. There is a real defensive ruggedness to this side, and we saw that in the third match day against another defensively minded Socceroos side. But that being said, I just don't see the goals in this team. I don't see the ability to break lines. Outside of Julio and Ciso, there was next to no threat against the Socceroos. I think Germany, with all their problems, should still make relatively light work. It's the next match day that's going to be a problem for them. But I have Germany winning this one 2-0. I don't see Paraguay getting out of this one. We head next to France, Sweden, and wow, if ever there was any doubt about can this French squad actually deliver, well, those questions have been answered emphatically in the group stages rather. Wow, they have delivered all the stars too, right? That front four on paper, looking like it's something out of a laboratory. Just quality wherever you look. Doué, Mbappe, Olise, Dembele, Barcola. There's an abundance, Cherki, an abundance of ballers in that front third. And man, have they delivered in full. Obviously, that opening half against Senegal in their first game was very underwhelming. Everyone was slandering them. Oh, Dembele and Mbappe, they can't perform together. Mbappe's ego is going to cost them going to cost France in 2026. How wrong were they? Mbappe is looking at his brilliant best. 4 goals in 2 assists in 3 games. This guy, look, There's the Mbappe of Real Madrid, but then there's the Mbappe for France. And this man is a different beast. He simply cannot be stopped right now. But adding to the just absolute terrifying nature of this team, you have a creative genius in Olise who has since thrived, transitioning into almost a 10 role. You know, we know how good he is on that right flank, but in order to get the most of Dembele, Deschamps has made a tactical alteration of sort, bringing him into a more central role and allowing Dembele to thrive on that right wing. We saw the best of Olise in the first 2 match days, and then in that 3rd match day, we saw the absolute best of Ousmane Dembele. This man single-handedly destroyed Norway. I know it was their B team, but he's now got himself 4 goals and an assist in 3 games. So, you know, you've got the Ballon d'Or winner and France's all-time leading goal scorer, a man with 16 World Cup goals. He's chasing that all-time record. He's probably fuming at Messi because he's kind of temporarily holding back his iconic World Cup legacy. I fully anticipate that France are going to smash Sweden. I mean, no disrespect. Sweden have been decent. They completely destroyed Tunisia in the opening match day. Gyökeres, Isak, performing at the peak of their powers. It's great to see Isak starting to kind of rebuild that fitness and confidence. I've been relatively impressed at times with Sweden. Ultimately, though, I do think defensively they're not great. We saw it against Japan. They were at 6s and 7s trying to defend them at times. The Dutch absolutely terrorized them in the space of, both in the first and second half. Inside the opening 15 minutes of each half, they got completely overwhelmed. So I don't see a world in which Sweden is going to be able to contain the attacking prowess of this French side. And for that reason, I have them winning, and I have them winning comfortably. I see them winning 4-0 this game. Maybe, I think it's going to be one-way traffic. I tell you what, I had some initial, concern about, can this France team bounce back from 2022 where they made the World Cup final off the back of winning the World Cup in 2018. I thought, okay, maybe there's going to be a downward turn with this generation. Turns out the exact opposite. It's a reinvigorated version of that 2022 team. You've got Dembele in the form of his life, a new creative genius in Olise. And don't forget about Desiree Doué, guys. He's also been outstanding in all 4 games. In all 3 games, he's looked lively. You've got Barcola coming off the bench. There's just an abundance of depth. The fact that someone like Ryan Cherki has had limited minutes thus far tells you everything you need to know, because he's almost guaranteed to be a starter in any other country. Anyways, we move next to Belgium v Senegal. Ooh, this is another interesting matchup. Very interesting matchup. Now, the opening 2 match days for Belgium, they were dull, weren't they? Who did they play? So they played Belgium. They played Egypt to start their tournament. Very poor start. Obviously, Egypt gave a really good account of themselves in that opener, but even with this dying generation, this aging generation rather, you would have anticipated that they had enough quality to get to be able to best their African opponents, but they've really struggled. It's only in the final match day where we've seen them kind of come to life. But you have to take into account that this was against a New Zealand team that was going a New Zealand team that didn't play a defensive brand of football at all. They did put 5 past them, but does that speak volumes as to how good Belgium are, or just that New Zealand weren't really prioritizing defensive structure in that final match day? So I know a lot of people are highly critical of Belgium. I don't think they're as bad as some people make out. I guess the positive is that De Bruyne came up with the goods last match day. Lukaku came off the bench and scored with his second touch of the ball. So that'll give him some confidence in the final third. Trossard has been impressive. He was really, really good in that third and final game against New Zealand. But defensively, it's a far cry of the days of Kompany and Vertonghen, Alderweireld. It's just not the same Belgium side. I know you've got Courtois in goal. Maybe he'll come in clutch in the knockout stages. However, we're coming up against the Senegal side, who have also been highly criticized this tournament thus far. obviously they come in with that kind of dark horse reputation, right? This is the team that won AFCON. You heard me say that correctly. Golden generation team, superstars in literally every area of the pitch, top players, elite European pedigree from goalkeeper to defense, midfield, and attack. Stars wherever you look. This is, so it's a particularly gifted generation for the Lions of Teranga, and many anticipated that this team could, be a potential dark horse to have a deep run in this tournament. Now, they haven't had the best of starts, losing their opening 2 match days before turning around with a huge win over Iraq. They've come under heavy criticism in the sense that many people these guys are just Turkey 2.0, a team full of stars that are underperforming. I don't think those comparisons are accurate. Against France, they were very good for 45 minutes. Against Norway, it was a very even contest. They just switched off a couple times defensively, a few defensive howlers, Koulibaly, Mendy having shockers. But I actually think that they've played a lot of good football, right? Particularly against Iraq. They came to life in that second half. I know Iraq were down to 10 men, but they needed a huge victory to have any chance of sneaking into that third place or into the top 8 for third place teams. And they did exactly that. Some brilliant goals. Pape Gay, Njai. Ismail Assar is another one who's been outstanding all tournament. I think he's got himself 3 goals, scoring in every single game. If they improve defensively, I think they're in with a real good shot at making something, at delivering something this tournament. And for that reason, I have them taking out Belgium. I'm going to say 2-1 to Senegal over 90 minutes. I think they get it done. And I think we see, Senegal locking in now. They got their confidence-boosting win over Iraq, and they're coming for the big boys now. So that's maybe some people might disagree with that, but that's my take on that matchup. The next one, USA v Bosnia. Oof, this is going to be a banger. I'm looking forward to this one a lot. Pains me to say this. Absolutely pains me to say this, but damn these Yanks. They've been very good, haven't they? Wow, that opening game against Paraguay. Men against boys. One of the most impressive first halves of football at a World Cup I can remember. Again, if you haven't been tuning into the US, you might be thinking, come on. The US, they can't be that good. Guys, I'm telling you, the US are that good. It's disturbing how good this US team is. Pochettino, man, he has strung together this ultra-offensive, tactically complex system. You've got so much interchanges in the heart of midfield. The fullbacks are bombing on. Serginho Dest plays as a winger in this team. Robinson is just up and down. You've got Freeman, who is this center-back, wing-back hybrid. It's fascinating the way they play. Obviously, they haven't faced a really difficult test yet, apart from the Socceroos, the greatest team of all. No, they flogged us that day. That was a humbling defeat. They did rest quite a few players and lost against Turkey, but I'm not reading too much into that. That wasn't that was a nothing game. They'd already secured first place. Literally a fixture to just blood the players that haven't had minutes thus far, and they did that. So if I'm a US fan, I'm full of confidence right now. I think there's a genuine belief that, hey, if I'm a US fan, maybe we go all the way to the quarterfinals. I think you have a particularly convenient run-in. I'm looking at who you're going to face in the latter stages, and it could be a lot worse. So, positive signs, but they can't disrespect Bosnia. They can't disrespect it. This is one of the most versatile teams in the entire comp. Sure, they may not have the superstars of other countries, but they have a real, determination. I've used that word a few times now, but yeah, just they want to make history. They've never been this far in the competition. They've got some absolute battlers defensively, got some young ballers in attack. I think they do lack quality, and I think the US are going to make it very difficult. I think they're going to look to suffocate them early on. But if they can weather the storm, then I think they're in with a good chance at frustrating the US. Although ultimately, I do see them advancing quite comfortably. I'm going to go 3-0. I just don't see a scenario where yeah, the US lose this game. I think they are, they've risen to the occasion because in previous tournaments they've really crumbled. Remember, they hosted the Copa America and they exited in the group stages. They are so far removed from that team. It's insane. We'll see how it is. I'm not sure about the availability of Pulisic, but even when he was out of the team, they looked lively. They've got so much quality across the park. And my only concern with the US as they move forward in this tournament is if either Weston McKennie or Tyler Adams gets injured, because I don't think either of those players are replaceable. But, you've got a number 9 who's full of confidence in Balogun. And yeah, I think, honestly, the sky's the limit for this US team. So, yeah, I'm going to go for them to advance. I think I said 3-0. Next one, Spain, Austria. Oof. Interesting matchup. Now, I tipped Spain to go on and win this World Cup. They were the favourites, for many. I believe the bookies' favourites coming into this tournament for a good reason, right? European champions in 2024. They got a new superstar, not so new, but a young superstar in 18, soon to be 19-year-old Lamine Yamal, approaching his first World Cup. He was an absolute revelation at the Euros. So what could he conjure up in this tournament? It's a Spain team that on paper isn't the most talented in comparison to previous generations, but one that has clicked very well in recent major tournaments. So a lot of expectations going into this tournament, but thus far I have been very underwhelmed with what I've seen, bar that Saudi Arabia victory, which, take it with a grain of salt because it's this 2026 version of Saudi Arabia. My God, they were abysmal all tournament. Everyone's slandering Uruguay about how bad they've been. I'm sorry. What are you doing, Saudi Arabia? You're like AFC. Come on, man. You've invested all this money in trying to build up your league to make it amongst the best to try and reach the levels of a top 5 European league. But the standard of the Saudi Arabian national team is in shambles right now. I've been so disappointed with them, but I'm getting distracted. We're talking about Spain here. Spain. Obviously, that opener against Cabo Verde was bizarre. They just couldn't get through this low block. And against Uruguay, it was a similarly dull affair. Okay, they won 1-0. And to be fair, Uruguay were trying to absolutely hack every single one of them. It was one of the craziest, most bizarre games of football. That Canobio lad is insane, but very underwhelmed with what I've seen thus far from Spain. Yamal is yet to really set this tournament alight. We've seen all the superstars come to the fray, but he is the one that is perhaps underwhelmed thus far out of all the big names. I know he got that, he scored the opener against Saudi Arabia, but bar a tap in, he just hasn't had that same X-factor quality that we've seen from him week in, week out at Barcelona for the last 2 seasons or so. So I'm really hoping he can get his act together. There's a big blow in the sense that Nico Williams, having just come back from a mixture, a multitude of injuries, has now suffered a fresh setback. So that's very frustrating. I think they lack explosive pace on the pitch. Yamal isn't that kind of player, but that team of 2024 with Nico Williams, that direct 1v1 specialist on the wing, it just worked so well with a technical genius of Yamal's pedigree on the opposite flank. I know Baena scored last game, but I don't think he offered much else bar that woeful goal from Muslera. And, Oyarzabal, he scored a brace against Saudi Arabia, but I don't know. I've just been disappointed in every facet, even in midfield. I know Rodri ran the show. He's ran the show in all 3 games, and Pedri's qualities are undeniable, but I think we're yet to see those two really show their pure class over the course of 90 minutes in a World Cup match. I want to see more involvement from them. It'll be interesting to see who starts in the middle. Is he going to go with Dani Olmo, who I thought was a lot better, gives them a bit more of an attacking dynamic as opposed to a Fabian Ruiz or a Mikel Merino or a Gavi. I certainly don't want to be seeing Gavi at left wing again. That was dreadful. But coming up against an Austria side who, look, they haven't set the world on fire, but they did happen to play quite possibly the craziest game of football I can recall in a World Cup. That 3-3, honestly, if you didn't tune into that match, you missed out. That was one of the most absurd things I can remember. This Austria team, look, hasn't been brilliant. They weren't great against Jordan. They got outclassed by Argentina, although, there was not much they could do with that Messi masterclass. Algeria, it was a very even contest. Both teams, creating throughout. They sat back, held on for the draw, almost bottled it and went out entirely, only to, bring on Kalajic off the bench, the last roll of the dice, and he scores a header. Crazy scenes. I still think Spain advance, although I'm not particularly confident in this Spain team. I'm certainly not backing them at this stage to go all the way unless something rapidly changes, unless we see an incredible version of Spain suddenly come to life. I don't see them going too much further in this competition just quietly. I think they're one of the big underperformers thus far. However, I've got them to win this game 2-1. Actually, no, 2-0. They have 2-0. They haven't conceded a single goal in the tournament thus far. That's the one kind of saving grace with this Spain team, and maybe that can be a pivotal factor as they approach the more difficult opponents, although they haven't truly been tested either. Anyways, we'll go on to the next game, and Portugal v Croatia. Ladies and gentlemen, we got ourselves an Unkoff. 41-year-old CR7 taking on 40-year-old Luka Modric. Whew. Big pressure on this Portugal team heading into this matchup. They, like Spain, have largely underwhelmed. I'd say even more so than Spain this tournament in terms of, their frontline players under-delivering. Obviously, all the focus goes to CR7. He did score a brace against Uzbekistan, but in the other two games, he's struggled. I am not in the business of holding CR7 responsible for all of their woes. I think the issues run much deeper than the CR7 factor. I think if you're going to play CR7, you have to set up the team accordingly. He's an immobile player, so you need pace surrounding him. You need intricate players. You need to, get the very best out of your playmakers, and you have a brilliant one in Bruno Fernandes, but for whatever reason, Roberto Martinez's tactics have just completely nullified the Bruno factor. Yeah, no fan of... I think it's too slow with Pedro Neto. Too slow. I think it's too slow with Joao Felix on the left. I think there's a lack of actual quality on the right with Pedro Neto. I don't understand how this man starts. If you watch my DMAG Daily content, you'll know I'm the biggest Pedro Neto hater on the planet. More concerningly, the midfield doesn't seem to be gelling, even though on paper, it's probably the best midfield trio of maybe any team in the tournament. For whatever reason, they just can't seem to gel. So there are big concerns with this Portugal team. I'm not convinced. Ruben Diaz coming back into the side, I think, has given them a bit more assurance at the back. Him and Vega they came in clutch at times against a rampant Colombia side. I don't know if, that performance was just down to the brilliance of Colombia. They were too good on the day, but the way I saw it, Portugal lacked any semblance of urgency. As a result, they've got themselves a much harder draw. They could have avoided the more complicated side of the bracket, but they were very, very underwhelming across all three games, bar that Uzbekistan match. Very, very poor. DR Congo gave them a lot of problems, and they're coming up against a Croatia team that, look, this isn't Croatia at the absolute peak of their powers, in the sense that their entire squad should be in a retirement home, but for whatever reason, this group of unks seems to just find a way, right? First game of the tournament, they got pulled apart by England. They were physically outplayed, particularly in that second half. Modric actually looked very, very poor in that opener, but as soon as Kovacic returned into the side, they've looked a lot more assured in the middle of the park. They dropped some of their younger... They dropped Vuskovic, brought in Pongracic, and honestly, they're not playing pretty football. It wasn't brilliant against Haiti, but they got against Panama, but they got the job done. It wasn't brilliant against Ghana, but they got the job done. This team has just a real maturity to their football, and just an understanding of how to win games. It seems like they're acutely aware of how to manage tournament football. How to consistently overachieve, even if they aren't the most gifted squad. I mean, because you look at their squad 1 to 11. There's very little pace, particularly out wide, but they somehow make up for it. It's fascinating. You got Perisic at left back. It's like, how is this guy a left back? Somehow I just I don't understand how it works, but Dalic, fair play to the Croatia manager. He seems to be able to consistently squeeze every little aspect possible out of the squeeze every little aspect. He seems to be able to get the very, very best out of this team despite their limitations, and for that reason, I think they're going to knock out Portugal. I think this game is going to go to extra time. I'm going to go 1-1, and then I think on penalties, Portugal get it done. Livakovic gets the better of Diogo Costa. I know Diogo Costa is a penalty specialist, but I just think this is going to be the big shock of the round of 32. That's my prediction, at least. CR7 fans, don't be too nasty to me in the comments, okay? It's just my opinion. Anyways, we move next to Brazil v Japan. Now, this is another one that is like so difficult because I got to keep it real with you guys. I am obsessed with Japanese football. I am absolutely obsessed. As a Socceroos fan that wants nothing more than to see my country replicate everything about Japan, their way they play football, their entire philosophy towards the game, their league system. They've just got such an incredible football culture, the utmost respect for their opponents, but a fearlessness in their approach. They play such a complicated, intricate 3-4-2-1 system, the movement of players. You know, they may not have the big names on paper, but my goodness, is this team brilliant. There is so much to like about Japan. I mean, just look at the goal they scored against Sweden, the final goal of the group stages. It was pure silk. They demolished Tunisia, and they went band for band against the Dutch for 90 minutes. They've got a real target man presence in Ueda, who's scored a couple goals. He's full of confidence. His link-up play is good. They've got intricate, technical ballers in every single area of the pitch. There's so much to like about this team, and I see them dominating this Brazil team. But I don't know, man. I really don't know what to think about Ancelotti's Brazil, because match day one, I was like, full-blown crisis. The days of Joga Bonito are gone. What is this Brazil team? They are a shell of their former selves. That is not Brazil. I'm watching Bolivia cosplaying as Brazil. It was bizarre. So, I was really concerned about the state of Brazil. That being said, they were coming up against a very, very good Morocco that day. So in the following two match days, they were okay against Haiti. They got the win. Vini Jr. was at his scintillating best. And I was still unsure what to think. It's like, okay, you beat Haiti, but it's Haiti. How are you going to go against a bit of a stronger opposition? Then they played Scotland and wiped the floor with them. Now, again, Scotland were diabolically bad that day. Vinny Jr., he couldn't have had an easier day at the office. They were gifting him chances, but Vinny Jr. seems to have really stepped up. He is the guy now for Brazil. They brought Cunha into the side. He scored a brace against Haiti, and then he bagged another against Scotland. He's looking full of confidence. That goal he scored against Scotland was beautiful football, with the pass to Guimarães, the way he just flicked it on. And then, the mobility of Cunha has really taken Brazil's game to another notch. Obviously, the loss of Rafinha is a big one. I don't know if Ryan can replicate those same qualities out wide. He's very young. He's a raw talent, but he's somewhat inexperienced in those big game scenarios. So he's got a lot to prove. They're really missing someone like Estevao in this latter stages. Maybe we'll see his fellow former Palmeiras Academy graduate, Endrick. Maybe he'll have more of a role to play. Maybe Neymar will have more of a role to play in this tournament, although I don't predict that. I think this Brazil team, it lacks quality in the middle of the pitch. So I think they're going to accept having less of the ball and look to take teams on the counter, use their explosive wingers and Cunha, moving in those channels to cause problems on the break. So for that reason, I'm going to have Brazil to advance over. I'm so sorry. I wouldn't bat an eyelid if Japan dominated Brazil and beat them comprehensively. That's how highly I rate this Japan team. But I do think Brazil are just going to get it done in extra time. In fact, 2-1 with Vinny Jr. and Cunha getting them over the line. We move next to Cote d'Ivoire v Norway, another dark horse matchup, if you will. Two teams that have impressed me big time this tournament. Now, starting with Cote d'Ivoire, there's a lot to like about this team, particularly in that final third. Obviously, Yan Diomande, the talk of the town right now, he's, looks like he's on his way to PSG shortly, but he's been very, very exciting to watch in the opening 3 games. Somewhat similar to Ryan in many ways, a bit unrefined, a bit of a raw talent, but my goodness, the speed on this lad, the ability to skin a man 1v1. He was absolutely, he's cooked his fullback in all 3 games. In Cup, he gave him all sorts. He destroyed Kimmich at times, even though he lost the ball quite a few times and his touch isn't exactly perfect. He's so talented. And to be fair, to just hyper-focus on Diomande is almost unfair to this Cote d'Ivoire side, because you've got the likes of Amad Diallo. Pepe seems to be, winding back the clock with some brilliant performances of his own. I like Bonny leading the line, a very technical but strong forward. You've also got Elias Wahik, who gives an option coming off the bench. Toure is another talented winger. In the midfield, they've got three good, strong but different profiles in Kessié, Sangare, 2 real workhorses. But then you have the more poised, technical midfielder in Inal of Trabzonspor. Again, very, very. He's been a revelation for Cote d'Ivoire. One of the most underrated midfielders currently at this tournament. He's destined for big things, no doubt. But for that reason, I'm very excited about this matchup. I think this Cote d'Ivoire team has so much work going for it defensively. They've got good players, a lot of speed at the back, in the center of defense, and also out wide. So, that's assuring. But you're coming up against a Norway team which has really, really lived up to the billing this tournament, haven't they? Look, they came in with a lot of pressure. First World Cup in in a long time. I can't remember the last time we were at the World Cup. Definitely before I was born. But, Haaland in his first major tournament, how was he going to perform? Well, let me tell you, he has been superb. 2 games, 2 braces. He's looking like the Haaland of when he first joined from City, the Haaland of Dortmund, playing in a more counter-attacking role of sort, with Odegaard pulling the strings in behind. You've got real talent. Noosa on the left, the Norwegian Neymar, they like to call him. He's been lively. Really, really impressed with Norway so far. Obviously, I think defensively, there's still questions to be asked. Okay, take this France game out of the equation. They made 10 changes to that side, but against Senegal, they copped 2 goals. Iraq gave them frequent problems. I do think they're going to face bigger tests. If we're comparing the 2 sides, I think overall, Cote d'Ivoire are a much stronger team. I really do think that they are a better side, 1-11. But the one distinction is that Norway has a true superstar amongst the ranks. And for that reason, I have Norway advancing 2-1. I think Haaland's going to bag another brace. I think with Haaland in your team, they're going to be a problem for any country. I really enjoy watching this Norway side. The fans are electric. There's just a lot to like about this team, and I think they're going to be a problem team just quietly. We move next to Mexico v Ecuador. Okay, we've still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got 6 games here, so I'm going to have to speed it up a bit. Mexico, Ecuador. Mexico, what a tournament they've had, man, as the host nation, going 3 from 3. Despite making a host of changes in all 3 games, they haven't actually been that great if you watch them play. But let me tell you, they are finding a way to win games. Aguirre has got this team so assured defensively. 3 games, 3 clean sheets. They got to farewell Ochoa in the best way possible. There's so much to be excited about. They're playing this round of 32 game in Mexico, so they'll have the home fans, they'll have that 12th man in attendance. And I believe if they go to the round of 16, they'll also play in Mexico. So there's so much motivation for this team to keep going. Coming up against an Ecuador side that, look, they started very slow. They were very unlucky to lose at the death to Cote d'Ivoire. Then they were incredibly underwhelming against Curacao, but they brought it home in that 3rd game, coming in clutch against Germany. So props to them for doing that. They got through. Look, Ecuador are still for many that one of the more difficult teams to get past, because obviously they've got a great back line. They're defensively very well coached, and I think they are capable of giving Mexico problems, but I can't go against them right now. I think this Mexico team, it's got too much going for them on home soil. I can't tip them. I'm gonna tip Mexico to go through. I'm gonna tip them to go through 1-0. We head next to England, DR Congo. Very difficult to make. I'm not quite sure what to make of Thomas Tuchel's England thus far, because 3 games, and I'd say for 5 of the 6 halves, I've been slightly, I haven't thought that much of them. I don't think they've been particularly brilliant, apart from 45 minutes against Croatia, where in that second half, where they were fantastic. The athleticism in that midfield, Bellingham with those brilliant runs in behind, Kane dropping in, Rice and Anderson dictating the play, Rashford causing problems, O'Reilly bombing down the left. There's a lot to like about that opener, but against Ghana, they really struggled to break down those low block teams. Same thing with Panama in that final match. Yes, they won 2-0 with Kane and Bellingham coming in clutch, but it does appear as though this team isn't well suited to coming up against those more compact, deep-lying defenses. So they're going to have a tough task getting ahead of DR Congo, who we saw a defensive masterclass, a haram ball masterclass, if you will, v Portugal in that opener. Although it wasn't really a haram ball, because I think they actually created the better opportunities in that game, if I remember correctly. But look, DR Congo themselves, they've had a great tournament, a historic tournament. The first time they've reached the knockout stages. That final match against Uzbekistan, what a comeback it was in that second half. Johan Wissa carrying his country with scoring that penalty to get them back into the contest, and then slotting home that incredible late goal. This team is, they're on the verge of history. They've already made history thus far, so they've got nothing to fear going into this match. But I still do think England have enough quality to get through them. I see them winning 2-0. I feel like I've said 2-0 like 20 times, a couple times at this point. But nonetheless, Switzerland, Algeria. Switzerland, Algeria. It's a tough one because Switzerland, they topped their group, but they haven't exactly lit this tournament up in their opening 3 games. They were obviously they had that disaster against Qatar in the opener. They would end up topping their group. They smashed Bosnia, and then they narrowly got the better of Canada. Now, to be fair, that Canada team they played was very good, and they got the better of them, even though they were under the pump for large periods in that game. They do have a superstar wonder kid in their ranks in Johan Manzambi. So good that he's finally been entrusted with the start. I couldn't believe he'd been a super sub in the opening 2 match days. This guy simply has to start. He is X Factor. He is box office. I believe he's the first under 20 player to have 4+ goal contributions at a World Cup since teenagers Kylian Mbappe and Thomas Müller. This is in the 21st century. So, what he's doing with this Swiss team cannot be understated. I think that coming up against an Algeria side that, they felt the wrath of a Lionel Messi masterclass in that first leg. Is it Enzo Zidane? Zidane's son having a notoriously bad game. I thought he was quite poor again in their second match, and then he was dropped for that third game, and their filling keeper didn't do himself any better. They were defensively, there's a lot of problems with this Algeria side. That being said, though, they've got some good players going forward. Obviously, Mahrez still bagging his first 2 goals in a World Cup against Austria the other day. That would have meant a lot to him. Maybe that gives him the confidence to kind of carry for his country. Au revoir. I want to see more of Matza. I'm hearing Matzadona chants. Give me more. Same with Amingiri. I want to see more from this Algeria side. You know what? I'm going to go for an upset. I think Algeria are going to pull a result out the hat. Obviously, there's a lot to be excited about. I think this is the first time they've reached the knockout stages in quite some... since 2014, or did they not? I can't remember if they did or not back then. But regardless, I'm going to go for Algeria. I haven't been taken aback by Switzerland at any given point this tournament. So I'm going to go for them to lose 2-1. Now, I said I haven't been taken aback from Switzerland. The same thing cannot be said about Colombia, because, wow, I love this team. In all 3 games, they have been so much fun to watch in terms of their direct approach, their willingness to take it to teams. We saw it against Portugal. Even with a result, a draw, would have seen them take top spot. They absolutely pushed and pushed. They kept giving Portugal all sorts. They dominated them and got better as the contest wore on. The fitness levels within this squad, even when they rested some players, Munoz didn't start that game. He came on and caused problems. James Rodriguez is playing brilliantly. Like, this guy, I tell you what, he may be kind of past it at club level, but you put him in an international, in a Colombia jersey, and he rolls back the clock. He's been brilliant all tournament. Same thing with Luis Diaz. He is the kind of attacking superstar in this side, in the form of his life. So much energy, so much, ruthless, direct quality that he possesses. Huge fan. I think in the striker department, that's maybe the one question mark between Suarez and Cordoba. Hasn't really gelled yet. However, I like the midfield. I like Arias in there. He's, again, just another workhorse, but technically gifted player. You take him off and bring on someone like Richard Rios. Quintero comes in for James. It's the same kind of entertainment, X-Factor kind of playmaker of sorts. So there's so much to like about this Colombia side, and I think they are one of the dark horses that could genuinely, and I fully believe that they will have a deep run in this tournament. I think they are Argentina's worst nightmare in a round of 16 scenario, but yeah, round of 16, quarterfinal scenario rather. But we move forward. So they're coming up against a Ghana side that haven't been great, but defensively they've been solid. Although against Croatia, they just switched off 2 times. Again, Croatia didn't exactly dominate them that game. They did get dominated by England, but they were brilliant defensively that day. Against Panama, probably one of the worst games of football I watched all tournament, but they managed to get a result. I guess the one good thing for Ghana's sake is they're winning, or they're getting results without playing a particularly enthralling brand of football, but I do see them comfortably being defeated by Colombia. I'm going to go 3-1 to Colombia in the round of 32. Anyways, we got 2 more clashes. Australia v Egypt. I mean, do you really expect me to be wearing this Socceroos shirt and not back in my country? Are you kidding me? A chance for a round of 16 rematch from 2022 with the eventual winners? Mate, we are winning this game. It's simple as, look, Egypt, I know you've had a decent tournament, okay? You did great against Belgium, but okay, maybe this is coming across as biased, but genuinely, I'm not particularly convinced with this Egypt side, right? Against New Zealand, they were outplayed in the first half. Their quality prevailed in that second. Against Iran, they were the better team, the marginally better side, I'd say, in the first half. But in the second half, they ran ragged by Iran. If it wasn't for a stunning VAR call, they would have lost that game. So I come into this game with the confidence that, yes, we can absolutely win this game. The only thing that concerns me is, like, Popovic. Are you going to be so pragmatic? We need to see Motore start. We need to start with a recognized 9. If we start with Iran Kunda in the 9, we're asking to have problems. We need someone that can kind of be an outlet to our more creative players to bounce off of. I want to see Volpato start. I want to see Iran Kunda on the wing. I want to see what we saw from match day 1. Obviously, it's a very different opponent, a completely different equation to coming up against Turkey. I don't see Egypt having as much of the ball as maybe Turkey did, but this Egypt team is beatable. I know Salah, I think I'm not sure if he's ruled out necessarily, but I do see this game as one that we can win. I know everyone's going to say, look at this bias, and maybe it is, but honestly, I watch this Socceroos team and there's so much to like about it. The back 3 of Harrington, Suta, Cherkati, all top central defenders. We've got a great keeper in goal in Patrick Beach. We've got Jordi Boss, one of the most talented fullbacks, wingbacks in the entire damn tournament. This guy is incredible. He is going right to the very top. Volpato on the right, Iran Kunda on the left. Just give me Motore up top and I'll be buzzing. I think this team can absolutely win this game. And for that reason, I've got us winning this match 1-0 and Motore to score the winner. And finally, last but not least, we've got Argentina coming up against the almighty Cabo Verde, the iconic cult hero team of the tournament, the team that has stunned the world with their remarkable backs against the wall heroics. You know, this is it an island of 500,000 people, I believe. They have just been such a they've just been such a great addition to the World Cup. Their fans are awesome. Some of the stories, obviously, Vozinha in goal, the 40-year-old Unk. They got a centre-back who plies his trade in Ireland, who got a LinkedIn message to play for the national team. It's so farcical yet brilliant. It just only adds to the underdog just fascination of this team, how they have just excelled despite all the odds, you know, drawing against Spain in that open-up, you know, just one of the best Harambe performances of all time, to then back that up with a fantastic performance against Uruguay, scoring 2 goals against a 2-time winner of the tournament. This team has legit pedigree. Everyone talks about them just kind of fluking their results, but in 2 of their 3 games, they've been the better side. They absolutely dominated Saudi Arabia in that final match day. This is a team that qualified in first place in qualifiers at the expense of Cameroon. So, you know, we got to put some respect on the Blue Sharks. They've been such a fresh addition to the tournament. I think the World Cup is... we're so lucky that we've got to see this story unfold. One of the great tales of the 2026 World Cup. And then there's Argentina, speaking of great tales. And Lionel Messi, the timeless magician, just wow. I mean, 6 goals in the group stage. Some marvelous performances. That match via Algeria, I just couldn't believe what I was watching. Same thing with Austria. You know, the hat-trick against Algeria was special. Austria, they did everything to stop him. And this, you know, the 38-year-old, the Unk of all Unk, well, he's not the Unk of all Unks, maybe that's CR7 because he's 41, but for a guy that, you know, has been just kind of stat padding in MLS, this guy is still right up there amongst the world's best. Some would say he is still the world's best, and it's hard to argue with 6 goals in 3 games. Some beautiful goals too. Obviously, this Argentina team, they don't play a brilliant brand of football, yet what they lack in individual quality across the park, they make up for in this like collective consensus of like, hey, we do our job together. We put in a shift, and Messi will reward us with his brilliance. I'm at a loss for words at times with this Argentina team. They look just as bit as good as 2022. You know, I thought, okay, you've won your Copa America, you won your World Cup, you won another Copa. I thought this was going to be like Spain in 2010 in the sense that, or I thought this was going to be like Spain in 2014 rather, right? Coming up of 2 of their Confederation victories and a World Cup. Was this going to be the one that, you know, the levels start to drop? It turns out it's the exact opposite. They've been superb. There's every reason. They are absolutely contenders, and for that reason, I have them prevailing against Cabo Verde in this match. I think they're going to win this game quite comfortably. I know Cabo Verde have been an incredibly resilient team and defensively very impressive. 2 clean sheets in 3 games, but coming up against this player that you can't just set up in a low block. You can't Harambe your way out of a Lionel Messi masterclass. This guy, he's playing without any pressure. He's doing it as good as he ever has on the world stage. He's now scored in 7 World Cup games. There's no reason for me to believe he's not going to continue just tearing up. He came off the bench the other day against Jordan, you know. He didn't have to come off the bench, but the fact that he did, what does he do? He scores a free kick. Like, the guy is just ridiculous. And so for that reason, I've got them winning 4-0. Anyways, guys, that is that's my full round of 32 predictions. Let me know yours in the comments below. And yeah, let me know if I've got zero ball knowledge, if I've got 1 trillion ball knowledge. Give me all your thoughts. Thanks so much if you stuck around to the very end. We've got DMAC Daily coming each and every day till the end of the tournament. On top of that, I'm going to be doing these match predictions every round, or I'm going to try to every round moving forward all the way up until the final. But yeah, that's it for today. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.